This is MackTruck, aka the Princess of Pain, aka your one nightmare. This is MackTruck, aka the Princess of Pain, aka your one nightmare.
Wednesday, July 17th, 2024. This is a midweek edition of the MackTruck Podcast. Unfortunately, due to some inclement weather here that happened in Des Moines the past 2 days, I have had to take a step back to organize some things with that. We had an EF1 level tornado rip through central Des Moines. That just happens to be a block from my house. So I was out of power for just about 14 hours. I did end up having to vacate to another location, and unfortunately there are still some people in the area that don't have power. I did have to clean out my fridge, lost pretty much everything in terms of the fridge portion, so trying to do some things to get that back. If you are also in the Des Moines area, please make sure you are taking care of each other, making sure you and your family are safe and have the means necessary. We are due for more inclement weather of such a kind this weekend coming up. With everything that's happened, today's podcast is going to be a little bit of a late recap in terms of events that have happened this past weekend, sporting events, and mainly just recaps from everything from the past couple days and weekends. Going to be talking about the biggest event in terms of just normal news, the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump at a Donald Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, just prior to the Republican National Conference will be held or is being held currently in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm also going to talk about the death of NFL Super Bowl champion Jacoby Jones. I'm going to talk about UFC Fight Night recap, Rose Namajunas, and that entire fight card itself. I'm also going to do some WFA recap and some big news out of there. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I had to save it for the end. We got to get through all the bread and butter first. I was going to talk about some MLB recap from the weekend and some WNBA recap from the weekend as well. This broadcast is brought to you by In My Bag Apparel and Customs, as well as the Three Man Weave podcast, both hosted, co-hosted, and produced in terms of the clothing line by Evan Bradfield. The Three Man Weave podcast itself is produced, commentated, hosted, and co-hosted by Evan Bradfield, Caleb Bradfield, and Big D Money himself. You can find their Spotify legend in terms of where to find it on Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, and pretty much anywhere else you find your audio and viewing streaming pleasure. Also brought to you by our quote of the day: where there's no struggle, there's no strength. Oprah Winfrey. One of my favorite quotes that I like to live by. And I'm kind of mad at myself that I didn't quite use this one before when we did some of the restructuring for the show itself. But nonetheless, that is your quote of the day. This broadcast and podcast is also brought to you by the Sip Off with Megan Price, as well as the 806 Sports Radio Show in Texas. Make sure you're following them on Facebook and StreamYard for all your audio and viewing pleasure. Also brought to you by Chopping It Up with P. Scott, Prescott Kelly. Again, one of my mentors and very good friends in terms of this time and space continuum, in terms of the podcast realm and amateuristic sports knowledge and content. Make sure you're following him up. Also, make sure you're following up his good friend podcast. That is the Houston State of the Union Sports Podcast, also found on Spotify and YouTube and anywhere else you can get your audio streaming pleasure. Also brought to you by The Truth Barbering Shop, 6563 University Avenue, Windsor Heights, Iowa, here in Windsor Heights or Des Moines, depending on where you live in the city of Des Moines. Duke, Gary Williams and Fats Chris Dixon, both barber extraordinaires. Make sure you're hitting them up and booking your appointments for your barbering and beard detailed needs, as well as anything hair related. Broadcast is also brought to you by the listeners, the viewers, commentators, things of that nature. I appreciate you. We appreciate you here in terms of the studio work and such. Without you guys, again, we don't have a podcast, we don't have a broadcast, we don't have content to put out there. So we appreciate every piece of feedback, every piece of support, everything that you are willing and wanting to give us. In terms of more sponsors, because we have to pay the bills here, also brought to you by Patent That Whiskey. You can find Daniel and Jen Patton's exotic blend of whiskey on Instagram. That is at them patents, literally at THEMPATTONS on Instagram. And make sure you tell them the MackTruck sent you. Make sure you're picking up a bottle, because I'm telling you, and just like I keep telling you on every show that we get into, it's good stuff. This is the official sponsor of the MackTruck Podcast. And every time I do a show or a live feed, that's exactly what I'm sipping on, is Patent That Whiskey. And I have not gone back to any other major brand whiskey right now. So make sure you're hitting them up. And in terms of our awesome beat music and theme music, we can't have it done without Freddie F. Morris and the Mad Noise Entertainment Squad, along with the artistic creations of the MackTruck Podcast logo and Camilo Rodriguez, CCR Webflow and Design to be exact. Make sure you're hitting both of those people up for your web design needs, logo design needs, background music, theme music, things of that nature. And make sure you're telling them that Mackenzie Brooks, the MackTruck, sent you. Big events coming up here in the community in terms of Des Moines. For example, the Community Kickback presented by 84 Fresh and the In My Bag apparel and custom line, August 24th, 2024. We're looking for vendors, sponsors, anything and everything in between. It's $30 for an outdoor table, $50 for an indoor table if you are interested and you are a small business. There'll be music, food, jewelry, clothing, artists, barbers, games, and anything else in between. Again, make sure you tap in with the @InMy_bag 2023 Instagram page, or at the word 80 and the number 4 fresh on Instagram. Stroll over to the 84 Fresh store itself, 8801 University Avenue in Clive. Make sure you're tapping in with both either Evan or the 84 Fresh squad to get in on that community kickback. We will be there as well. So obviously I wouldn't be plugging it if it wasn't just an event, but this is an event put on by two entities that are looking to unite the community right before school gets back in session. Also presented to you by the Card Traffickers. The next sports card showcase will again be held at 480 Bass Pro Lane Northwest, at the Hyatt Place Hotel in Altoona, Iowa, September 6th and 7th. To September 6th, which is that Friday, will be 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. And that Saturday on the 7th will be 10 a.m. to 5 or 6 p.m. Depending. The MackTruck Podcast will be there again. In My Bag apparel and customs will also be there. Patent That Whiskey will also be there. Make sure you are checking out hashtag the Card Traffickers with a Z on Instagram to tap in to that opportunity for sports card trading, TCG card trading, Pokemon trading, and vintage card trading. There will be food. There will be merchandise. So bring yourselves, bring your cards, and just generally come out for a great time. Moving into the docket here, unfortunately, we have to start out on a somber note. And I'm going to go through all the facts first before we get into how I personally feel, things of that nature. Butler, Pennsylvania, this past Saturday. And again, this commentary and information given to you is brought by many sources, Alleries.com, CNN.com, the Washington Post, and amp.cnn.com as well. Donald Trump was grazed in the ear at a political rally this past weekend in Butler, Pennsylvania, just prior to the Republican National Conference. 2 people were killed in the attempted assassination, which they have declared it an attempted assassination on former President Donald Trump. 2 of those people, again, were killed, one of those being the shooter, the alleged suspect, Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20 years old, of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, shot and killed by Secret Service members in counterfire. And an innocent bystander in the crowd was also fatally injured with this incident. And the thing in terms of everything that's happened, before we get back to more facts, for whatever reason, people seem to think that just because they don't align with the MAGA fan base or Donald Trump himself, for some reason, people seem to think that because of his political status or alignment, that he is not a human being. I don't give a damn who you align with. No human being deserves to have shots taken at them during a political rally or an event of some kind. And I'm specifically talking about right this minute, this current instance. I'm not speaking about anything in the past. I've spoken about many things in the past in terms of police brutality, racism, things like that. I'm talking strictly right this second. If you are one of those people who wished death upon Donald Trump or said stupid things like, oh, the shooter missed, or too bad he missed, like, you're part of the reason why the country is divided, quite literally. Donald Trump is still a human, no matter what kind of wild things he has done, said, no matter how you align, Donald Trump is still a human. Just like anybody else that has been put in that situation or that has lost their life in that situation. When are we going to start stepping up as human beings and becoming better human beings? Like, when does that happen? Because I also went onto my page and felt obligated to just genuinely address the public in terms of what the hell is wrong with some of y'all. Like, quite literally, when are people going to start to understand that it is literally okay to disagree on damn near everything? You can disagree with people on everything and anything in between. If you value the friendship or relationship you have with that person, then you're going to make it work. If you have an issue with what something somebody said or something somebody did, that is a you problem. You cannot control how somebody else acts or reacts. So the fact that people are wishing death upon this man, again, regardless of whatever has been going on, charges, spotlight, things of that nature, some of y'all need to grow the hell up. And that's all I'm going to say in terms of my personal opinion. Getting back to the facts here, the FBI named Crooks early Sunday morning in the continuous coverage of the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. Again, Donald Trump was speaking at a rally that he was holding in Butler, Pennsylvania. Shots came from the right side of Donald Trump from the podium. So if you're looking at CNN or looking at any other newscasts on the TV, it's our left side. If you're out in the crowd or if you're Donald Trump at the podium, and it's the right side. Reports are stating that the shot came just about 200 to 300 yards away from the event on the top of a rooftop of a factory where they found Thomas Matthew Crooks on top of that, making an attempt to essentially assassinate former President Donald Trump. And again, he is identified by the Bethel Park and the Butler, Pennsylvania police departments, as well as the FBI. Again, 35 miles south of Butler was where Crooks had resided from in Bethel Park. Again, the rally was held at that site, and the building rooftop was just about 200, 300 yards, again, across or behind rather the Trump rally itself. President Biden did speak to the public and addressed that the incident and his disdain towards it, as well as condemning the actions. Biden at the time also addressed that he couldn't get a hold of Donald Trump at the time, but had planned to speak with him in the coming hours, in the coming minutes after the public address. President Joe Biden was also away from the White House at the time. He was over in a residence that he has in Delaware, I believe. He did speak to former President Trump, I believe a couple hours after the initial incident, after he was already been checked out by his medical staff and things like that. Thomas Matthew Crooks also graduated from Bethel Park High School in 2022. So just a fresh 20-year-old young adult. He was a registered Republican according to the Pennsylvania voter database that matched his name, age, and address at the time. His residence was searched Saturday night as well. The Federal Election Committee records also showed that a donor listed as Thomas Crooks with the same address gave a $15 donation to a democratically aligned political action committee called the Progressive Turnout Project in January of 2021 was when he made that donation. When reached by CNN late Saturday night, Crooks' father, Matthew Crooks, said that he was trying to figure out, quote, what the hell is going on, but wanted to wait until he had all the information and spoke with law enforcement before he was speaking about his son. So I know there has been more updates since this initial assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. So we will keep doing more research to update you guys in terms of those who don't follow mainstreams a lot or just genuinely look forward to content on here. Moving on to the second part of our somber note here on the MackTruck Podcast. NFL star Jacoby Jones has passed away. And this information can be found by Jamison Hensley on ESPN. Obviously, if you know the sport of football, you know some of the historic and legendary times of Super Bowls and games such. Jacoby Jones was known for the Mile High Miracle, 9-year NFL vet. That Mile High Miracle was brought to you by a 70-yard touchdown pass from Joe Flacco with 31 seconds left remaining in the AFC Divisional Playoff in January of 2013. The Ravens were trailing at that point 35-28 in Denver. Jacoby Jones folds behind the safety, Raheem Moore at the time, to tie the game with that 70-yard touchdown pass. And the Ravens Super Bowl victory over the 49ers, Jones became the first player to score a receiving touchdown and return a touchdown in the same game in Super Bowl history. His 108-yard kickoff return touchdown ended up being the longest scoring play in NFL history still to this day. And that game was also played in New Orleans, which was Jacoby Jones's hometown. In 2017 rather, Jacoby Jones signed a one-day contract to retire with the Ravens. Last month, he attended the Ravens reunion at minicamp and was seen just cracking jokes with his teammates per normal. And before he joined the Ravens squad, he had spent 5 seasons with the Houston Texans. The cause of death currently to this point right now has not been released. Again, some of this is just a little bit late because we are getting a late start on the show. So please try not to crucify me. We are just catching up in terms of that. So we will look forward to more updates on that in terms of a official cause of death when it comes to the late Jacoby Jones. Moving into the weekend recap in terms of sports and such. UFC Fight Night, Namajunas versus Cortez, the headliner of the women's flyweight bout. And this fight card, from what I was able to watch up until the back part of the main card, absolute fire. Absolute fire. Abdullah Hassan versus Cody Brundage. Unfortunately, this was due to a no contest. This was the one fight I didn't get to see. I still, right now, have not figured out what that no contest reason was. Mr. Al-Hassan came into this fight 12-6-0, and Cody Brundage came into this fight 10-6-0. And I do believe now with that no contest, both of them will have a no contest on their record, pending any details in terms of why the no contest was a thing. Moving into the featherweight division, Juliana Rosa versus Christian Rodriguez. Juliana Rosa comes up on top with the guillotine choke. 4 minutes and 49 seconds into the fourth round. He is now 30-12-0. Christian Rodriguez is now 11-2-0. Moving into the welterweight division of this main fight card for Fight Night UFC recap. Gabriel Bonifim versus Ange Loosa. Bonifim gets the unanimous decision, 30-27 times 2 and a 29-28 decision from judge number 3. Bonifim is now 16-1-0. Losa is now 10-4-0. Moving into the third fight on this recap here, fourth fight rather, I should say, because sometimes numbers are hard. Drew Dober versus Jean Silva. Drew Dober ends up dropping this TKO. Jean Silva gets the win. Doctor stoppage TKO. Minute and 28 seconds into the third round. Jean Silva is now 14-2-0. Drew Dober is now 27-14-0. Moving into the co-main event here of the UFC Fight Night. Rose Namajunas versus Tracy Cortez. Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Muslim Salikov in the welterweight division. Split decision goes to Mr. Salikov, 28-29 times 2 and a 28-29. So 29 times 2, 29-28 for 1 for that three-way split decision. Mr. Ponzinibbio is now 38-0. Muslim Salikov is 25-0. Moving into our main event here for the recap of Rose Namajunas and Tracy Cortez. And before we get into some of these stats, for those of you who have been paying attention, Tracy Cortez missed weight essentially by just about half of a pound. And if you miss weight during official weigh-ins, you get about, I believe, 2 hours to try and cut the rest of it before they start to bring down penalties and things like that. So rather than trying to deplete herself even more, Tracy Cortez cuts off just about 2.5 inches of hair. Like, literally gives herself a haircut, chops off most of the length of her hair to make weight, and ends up making weight at, I believe, 126 even. And you could tell when she came back to the scale after she had stripped, she was holding the locks of hair in her hand. And for me personally, that I'm just like, that's dedication. That's how you know that you're dedicated to sport, when you're really, like, literally willing to cut off part of your hair to make weight because you know you don't have anything left in your body to cut, essentially, without making yourself super sick. That's determination, and that itself is passion and love for your craft. Moving into the bread and butter of this flyweight 5-round matchup, Rose Namajunas gets the unanimous decision. She is now 14-6-0. Tracy Cortez is now 11-2-0. Again, unanimous decision to Rose Namajunas, 49-42 times 2 and 48-47 for 1, and that split decision here on the MackTruck Podcast. Again, if you're joining us, thank you. Get a little bit of a late start to the week here in terms of our podcasts and episodes due to inclement weather and power outages and just some crazy things that have happened within the week. But we are here. We are getting it in per normal. I'm going to move into the baseball stats from the weekend here. Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates grappling on the road in Chicago. 6-2 hitting stats for the Pittsburgh Pirates and Chicago White Sox are as follows. 9 hits for the Pirates, 5 hits for the White Sox, no home runs apiece, 10 total bases for the Pirates, 7 total bases for the White Sox, 8 runners left on base for the Pirates, and 4 left on base for the White Sox. Pitching stats are as follows here. 9 strikeouts for Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates, 7 strikeouts for the Chicago White Sox, 102 strikes in favor of the Pirates to 79 strikes for the White Sox, 5 hits allowed to 9 hits allowed, 1 walk for the Pirates and 4 walks for the White Sox. Winning and losing pitchers here for this game. Kyle Nichols is going to be the winning pitcher. He is now 1-2 on the season in terms of wins. Pitched just about 1 inning and 1 out's worth of an inning for that. No hits allowed, no earned walks, 1 strikeout, and no walks allowed. Losing pitcher going to be Chris Flexen, who is now 2-8 on the season. Pitched 6 full innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, and 2 walks on the day. Moving into the next game, that is the New York Yankees and the Baltimore Orioles. Yankees grabbed this one 6-1. Hitting stats for this game are as follows: 10 hits for the Yankees, 8 for the Baltimore Orioles, 3 home runs for the Yankees, none for the Orioles, 22 total bases for the Yankees, 10 total bases for the Baltimore Orioles, 7 runners left on base to 6 runners left on base for the Orioles. Pitching stats are as follows: 7 strikeouts for the Yankees, 12 strikeouts for the Orioles, 81 strikes for the New York Yankees to 114 strikes for the Baltimore Orioles in favor of them. 8 hits allowed for the Yankees, 10 hits allowed for the Orioles, 1 walk for the Yankees, and 1 walk plus 2 for the Orioles. In other words, 3 walks, because math is hard for me sometimes. Winning pitcher for this game, Luis Gil, who's now 10-5 on the season, pitched 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts, and 1 walk. Losing pitcher going to be Grayson Rodriguez, who is 11-4 on the season now. 5 innings pitched, 8 hits, 6 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, and 1 walk for this game in terms of our stats and recap of the MLB from this past weekend. Final and 10 here. Dodgers at Tigers. Gonna drop this one by 2 again in final and 10. 9 for the Dodgers, 11 for the Detroit Tigers. Hitting stats for both teams are as follows: 12 hits to 16 hits in favor of the Detroit Tigers. 2 home runs, 4 home runs, again in favor of the Detroit Tigers. 21 total bases to 33 total bases, again in favor of the Detroit Tigers. 10 runners left on base to 9 runners left on base, not favoring, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Pitching stats are as follows for this game: 8 strikeouts for the Dodgers in favor of them to 6 strikeouts for the Detroit Tigers. 112 strikes again in favor of the Dodgers to 108 strikes to the Detroit Tigers. 16 hits allowed to 12 hits allowed in favor of the Detroit Tigers. 2 walks and 8 walks, 2 walks in favor of the LA Dodgers. Winning pitcher for this game going to be Will Vest of the Detroit Tigers, who is now 2-3 on the season. Pitched 1 inning, no hits, no earned runs, 1 strikeout, 1 walk. Losing pitcher going to be Yohan Ramirez, who is now 0-4 on the season. Pitched 1 out worth of an inning, 1 hit, 1 earned run, no strikeouts, and no walks. And to recap, a doubleheader here for our MLB recap on the MackTruck Podcast here on this Wednesday. That is July 17th, 2024. Cubs at the St. Louis Cardinals drop game 1 in this doubleheader, 3-11. Hitting stats for this game are as follows: 13 hits in favor of the Cards to 7 hits for the Cubs. 2 home runs in favor of the Cubs, 1 home run for the St. Louis Cardinals. 19 total bases in favor of the Cardinals to 14 total bases for the Chicago Cubs. 5 runners left on base to 6 runners left on base in favor of the Chicago Cubs. Pitching stats for this game are also as follows: 9 strikeouts for the Cubs to 10 strikeouts for the Cardinals in favor of them. 99 strikes for the Cards in favor of them to 96 strikes for the Chicago Cubs. 13 hits allowed to 7 hits allowed, again favoring the St. Louis Cardinals, and 2 walks apiece. Winning and losing pitcher for this first game here for the St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Cubs. Winning pitcher Lance Lynn, who is now 5-4 on the season, 6-0 in terms of innings pitched, so 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, and 2 batters walked. Losing pitcher going to be Hayden Weston for the Chicago Cubs, who is now 3-6 on the season. Pitched 4 full innings, 10 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 strikeouts, and 1 batter walked. Moving into game 2. So this game 2 was a makeup from the 24th of May. So again, a doubleheader, but not an actually scheduled doubleheader. Cubs going to drop this one too, but only by 1 this time, 4-5 in favor of the St. Louis Cardinals. Hitting stats and pitching stats are a lot closer and a lot more competitive this second game. 12 hits in favor of the Chicago Cubs to 11 hits for the St. Louis Cardinals. 1 home run for the Cubs, 2 in favor of the St. Louis Cardinals. 17 total bases to 19 total bases, again in favor of the Cards. 6 runners left on base to 10 runners left on base, again in favor of the Cardinals. Moving into pitching stats for this game here. 7 strikeouts for the Cubs in favor of them, 6 strikeouts for the Cardinals. 99 strikes in favor of the St. Louis Cardinals. 81 strikes for the Chicago Cubs. 11 hits allowed in favor of the Cubs to 12 hits allowed, and 3 walks apiece. I saw some of both of these games, and I'm not even gonna lie, I was kind of impressed just because I'm a Yankees fan, and I unfortunately tend to not really veer out of the realm of the American League conference in terms of baseball, but being a resident of the state of Iowa, I feel obligated to watch some of the Midwestern teams, which would include both Chicago teams, the Minnesota team, the Cincinnati team, the St. Louis team, Kansas City team as well, and any other team that I have missed, which includes the Milwaukee Brewers as well. So just to give you a little bit of a background in terms of how I feel as far as baseball and how we're aligned. Winning pitcher for this second game with the Cards and Cubs, Jojo Romero, pitched 2 outs worth of an inning, had 1 hit, no earned runs, 0 strikeouts, and 1 walk. Losing pitcher for this game, Chicago Cubs pitcher Porter Hodge, pitched 1 full inning and 2 outs worth of an inning, 2 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 strikeouts, and 1 batter walked. And saving pitcher for this game, who has 32 saves on the season, Ryan Helsley. Sorry, my handwriting is terrible. But pitched 1 full inning, had 1 hit, no earned runs, 1 strikeout, and no batters walked on the game. Tremendous save for a 32-game saving streak as we are speaking to you live, large and in charge here from the MackTruck Podcast studio. I'm excited, you're excited. Midweek fun. Moving into more stats, different topic, different sport. That is the WNBA. If you did not watch the WNBA this weekend, I don't know what you were doing. Probably just living your life and enjoying summer. Per normal, getting ready for this reincarnation of what is going to be an Olympic year here in like what feels like about 10 days, about 12 days. I'm pumped. You're pumped. We're excited to be here. Frankly, I'm for it. 7-12 games. WNBA recap. Vegas Aces steal this one in Atlanta, 84-70. Asia Wilson, 33 points, 13 for 23 from the field, and 100% from the free throw line at 4 for 4. Cheyenne Parker Tyus, 17 points, 7 for 9 from the field, and 75% from the free throw line at 3 for 4. Asia Wilson, 18 rebounds, 16 defensive boards, and 2 offensive boards. Tina Charles, 12 rebounds, 8 defensive boards, 4 offensive boards. And I'm going to stop right there because, again, and I like to just bring to light how competitive the WNBA has been and how competitive the WNBA has always been. Unfortunately, with how the scope of college basketball has gone this past season and a few other seasons prior to this, this current rookie class and the incoming ones are just going to be that much better in terms of bringing more light to the professional level of women's basketball, and I, for one, am here for it. Moving back into our stat line here to round out the first game recap. Kelsey Plum, 7 assists, 3 turnovers, played 33 minutes. Destiny Henderson, 5 assists, 3 turnovers, 26 minutes. In terms of team stats here, Aces go 41% from the field, 41% from the 3-point line, and 82% from the free throw line as a team. Dream go 38% from the field, 11% from 3, and 67% from the free throw line. It was a good game. I was between watching the Indiana Fever and the Aces game. I don't know. I couldn't keep flipping back and forth. I put one on the TV and one on my phone because if y'all know me, y'all know how I do. So I got to be able to see both games at once or have, lots of access all the time, just like any other normal, wildly passionate sports fan, former athlete, however you want to view me as. Moving into the next game here, Phoenix Mercury at the Indiana Fever. Phoenix gonna drop this one for a second time to the Indiana Fever, 86-95. But I'll tell you this, Clea Copper had a fucking game. Per normal. Had a game. I love it. Kelsey Mitchell also had a fucking game. And again, I'm here for it. Clea Copper, 36 points, 11 for 25 from the field, 11 for 13 from the free throw line for just about 85%. Kelsey Mitchell, 28 points, 11 for 19 from the field, and 100% from the free throw line at 3 for 3. Natasha Mack, 9 rebounds total, 7 D boards, 2 O boards. Leah Boston. I love me some Leah Boston. Let me listen. Leah Boston is her right now. Asia Wilson, also her. Angel Reese, also her. In terms of my post players, forward players. Okay. Leah Boston, 13 rebounds, 5 defensive boards, 8 offensive boards, and assist stat line. Celeste Taylor, 5 assists, 1 turnover, played 24 minutes. Caitlin Clark, 13 assists, 6 turnovers, 38 minutes. And I'm going to stop right there for just a second. Celeste Taylor, for those of you who haven't either paid attention or just kind of forgot, Celeste Taylor got drafted to the Indiana Fever along with Caitlin Clark in this year's WNBA draft. Unfortunately, Celeste Taylor was waived by the Indiana Fever, and not because they wanted to. Unfortunately, with WNBA rosters right now, with how small they are, you can only keep 12 active players and I believe 2 people that are on the injured reserve list. And they did regret letting her go. They stated that they didn't want to let her go. They weren't happy about letting her go. After getting waived by the Indiana Fever, the Phoenix Mercury picked Celeste Taylor up just about, literally, she signed on the dotted line about 6 hours before this damn game, and then ends up playing most of the game because, again, this game, they were missing Diana Taurasi and Natasha Cloud. Then Brittany Griner ended up going out in the first quarter with what seemed to be an aggravation to that toe that they just got done being injured with, or a head injury. I couldn't quite tell. I mean, I watched the game, but couldn't quite tell what the injury was. But Brittany Griner did not end up returning that game either. Point of the matter is, anything can happen. Take the opportunity and run with it. Celeste Taylor got waived and then got picked up by a different team 6 hours prior to playing this game and still filled out a good portion of the stat line. Team stats for this Mercury and Fever game. Mercury go 41% from the field, 35% from 3-point line, and 78% from the free throw line. Fever go 48% from the field, 14% from the 3-point line, and 79% from the free throw line. And 14% for the Fever is very shocking, but not at the same time, or at the same time rather, it's not. Because unfortunately, the past game or two, even leading up to this one, this past game from the 12th here, 3-point shots have not quite been falling as often as they normally do for the Fever. And it also shows that there's versatility because you don't always have to shoot the 3 to win a game. It absolutely helps. It also helps cut into leads and get you back within striking distance after being out of a deficit. So it's a thing, but that just means that everybody else's other types of shots and shot selection has to be on point. And that was shown here in this game, just like it was also shown in the Aces and Dream game. So big shout out to all the players, honestly, especially being a league that's played in the middle of summer where it feels like people just don't care unless they're actually into it. That type of thing. It's great, and I'm here for it. And again, just some more closing notes in terms of that game. Like I said, Brittany Griner did leave the first quarter with an injury, did not return. Again, Celeste Taylor released by the Fever and signed to the Mercury 6 hours before the game. Diana Taurasi was out with a hamstring, and Natasha Cloud was out with a lower leg injury, I believe. And I do believe both Natasha Cloud and DT ended up returning within the next couple games. Here, we'll get to some more of those recaps in tomorrow's pod. Moving into some more recap here in terms of the WNBA. Got a lot to recap, so just bear with me here. If you're listening live or you're commenting, I appreciate it. Moving into the next game, Minnesota Lynx at the Seattle Storm drop it 63-91. Kayla McBride, 27 points, 7 for 13 from the field, and 100% from the free throw line at 7 for 7. Nneka Ogwumike, 26 points, 10 for 14 from the field, and also 100% from the free throw line at 5 for 5. Dorka Juhas, 7 rebounds, 4 defensive rebounds, 3 offensive boards. Ezzie Magbagor, 8 rebounds, 5 defensive boards, 3 O boards. Alana Smith on the assist column, 5 assists, 2 turnovers, 29 minutes. Skylar Diggins-Smith, 12 assists, 4 turnovers, 28 minutes. I love me some Skylar Diggins-Smith rather. Listen, Skylar, I believe, had another child last year, if my memory serves me correctly. She came back this season and has just been roasting people left and right, and I'm for it. Like and it's always the types of players that don't always get seen in the media and don't always get a lot of shine. And that's not saying that she doesn't deserve it. I'm just like, she's been in that spotlight before, but after, being gone for a year and then coming back, she has just quietly been an assassin, and I'm for it, frankly. Moving into some games from the 13th of this past weekend. Liberty at Chicago Sky. Liberty get this one 81-67. Sabrina Ionescu, 28 points, 9 for 21 from the field, 6 for 7 for just about 75% from the free throw line. Marina Mabry, 21 points, 8 for 19 from the field, and 1 for 1 at 100% from the free throw line. Rebound column is as follows. Jonquel Jones, 9 rebounds, 7 D boards, 2 O boards. Angel Reese, 16 rebounds, 10 D boards, and 6 offensive rebounds. Assist column, Jonquel Jones again, 7 assists, 1 turnover, 34 minutes. Marina Mabry, 7 assists, 4 turnovers, 38 minutes. Team stats here for the Liberty and Sky game from the 13th. 42% from the field for the Liberty, 31% from the from the three-point line rather, and 71% for free throw percentage at 10 for 14. Sky stats are as follow: 41% from the field, 47% from the three-point line, and 100% at 4 for 4 from the free throw line. Moving back into the next game here on our 7-13 WNBA recap here. LA Sparks get it done on the road in Texas versus Dallas Wings, 87-81. Dearica Hamby, 27 points, 13 for 24 from the field, and goes 0 for 1 from the free throw line. Odyssey Sims, who also, seemingly enough, has been on a tear since she re-signed with the Dallas Wings. And I feel like the Dallas Wings are just another piece away from getting back into competitive contention. And you can never count them out with the likes of Odyssey Sims or Rike Gombawale. There's just some pieces missing in between, whether it's due to injuries, whether it's due to just some, rookies not being able to, and not even rookies, just new pieces to the team, just not quite gelling the way they're used to. Odyssey Sims, 23 points, 9 for 17 from the field, 3 for 4 for 75% from the free throw line. Azua Stevens, 8 rebounds, 7 defensive boards, 1 offensive board. Natasha Howard, 7 rebounds, 5 D boards, and 2 O boards. Assist stat line is as follows. Dearica Hamby, 5 assists, 2 turnovers, 36 minutes. Odyssey Sims, 5 assists, 1 turnover, 39 minutes. Team stats for this game are as follows. Sparks, 50% from the field, 43% from the three-point line, and 79% from the free throw line as a team. Wings stats are as follows. 44% from the field, 33% from the three-point line, and 78% from the free throw line as a team. Listen, words can't express how much I love sports, and the more I read these stats, the more I get excited for the next games, and the next games after that, and the next games after that. So I apologize if I'm babbling, but it's the passion talking. Just got 2 more games here in terms of our recap from the weekend. 7:14 this past Sunday. Mercury at Connecticut dropped this one. 69-96. Kalia Copper, 17 points. 8 for 17 from the field and 100% because they did not go to the free throw line, so 0 for 0. Rachel Banham, 24 points, 8 for 11 from the field, and again, 0 for 0 from the free throw line at 100% because they did not go to the free throw line. Rebound stat line, BG, Brittany Griner, 9 rebounds, 4 defensive boards, 5 offensive boards. Dejanay Carrington, 11 rebounds, 5 D boards, and 6 offensive boards. Natasha Cloud, who returned to this game along with Brittany Griner after being injured for the past couple games. 6 assists, 2 turnovers, played 31 minutes. Taisha Harris, 7 assists, 2 turnovers, 32 minutes. Moving into this next game, that is the Indiana Fever and the Minnesota Lynx. And I'm going to stop and preface my comments by saying this. If the Indiana Fever keep being as competitive and keeps getting these squeak out wins, they are going to end up making the playoffs. Don't quote me on that. Right now, still in a good position. We got the All-Star break coming this week, and we've got the Olympic break coming right after it. Some of these teams that have been struggling are going to get a good, long period of practice to reestablish some things, get some rest, get some treatment before they start to hammer out the back half of the WNBA season. Again, for those of you who don't know, in the middle of an Olympic year during the WNBA regular season, there is an All-Star break and an Olympic break. So Team USA can go play Team USA basketball to represent the United States of America in the most prominent athletic competition that is the international prowess of the Olympics and the Olympic Games itself. But moving back into our stat line here, Fever get this one in Minnesota, 81-74. Kelsey Mitchell. Listen, Kelsey Mitchell right now is literally, and I feel like has always been, the glue of the Indiana Fever. And I'm here for it. Kelsey Mitchell, 21 points, 8 for 18 from the field, 100% from the free throw line at 2 for 2. Alana Smith, who also had herself a game. Alana Smith was all over the damn place this game and was frustrating the hell out of me being an Indiana Fever fan. But also being a former athlete, I'm like, oh my god, like, she's killing it, and the Fever have no answer for her right now as it stands. 18 points, 6 for 15 from the field, 4 for 4 at 100% from the free throw line rather. Aaliyah Boston, 16 rebounds, 11 D boards, 5 O boards. Alana Smith again, 8 rebounds, 4 D boards and 4 O boards apiece for both stat lines. And obviously the assist column can't have an assisting stat line in these games without the name of Caitlin Clark. 6 assists, 6 turnovers, 37 minutes. Courtney Williams, 6 assists, 3 turnovers, 34 minutes. Which does round out the WNBA recap from the past couple days and the weekend. And before we get into this last topic, that is the Women's Football Alliance playoff recap. If you can tell, like, I'm beaming about this, and I needed to put this topic at the very end of the podcast. So if you're listening just for this topic, thank you for joining. If you're fast forwarding to just listen to this topic, again, thank you for listening, but please listen to the rest of the show. WFA playoff weekend recap. And I'm obviously saving my own team for last. Don't try to chastise me because this is my show and I do what I want. Hell. In D3, the Cincinnati Cougars grab one and are now conference champions. 14-6 over the Maine Mayhem. Also in D3, the New Mexico Bandits versus the Oklahoma Rage get a big one. 40-24, and are also conference champions. American Conference champion, National Conference champion will play for the D3 national title game in Canton, Ohio on the 26th and 27th of July, which is in just about 9 days, at the Hall of Fame Stadium. Cincinnati Cougars versus the New Mexico Bandits for the D3 National Championship game. I'm excited for this entire weekend, and I'll tell you why here in just a minute. Moving into D1, or the pro division of the WFA, Boston Renegades blank the Pittsburgh Passion 41-0 to become the, I believe, national conference champions in D1. And the St. Louis Slam handed to the Minnesota Vixen for what I would believe is the American Conference champion in D1, 20-3. Boston Renegades versus the St. Louis Slam for the Pro Division national title at the WFA Championship weekend in the Hall of Fame Stadium that is Canton, Ohio. Again, June 26th, 27th, and 28th that weekend. And moving into D2 because I can, and I wanted to save it for last because my team is going to the ship. But before we get there, West Palm Beach Coyotes hand one to the Atlanta Rage 22-14 to become the D2 National Conference champions, and your Nebraska Pride get the job done in Oklahoma, 19-18 versus the Oklahoma City Lady Force. Your D2 championship are as follows: your D2 National Conference champion in the West Palm Beach Coyotes versus the American Conference champion in D2, that is the Nebraska Pride. Again, that game is also held the weekend of July 26th, 27th, and 28th in Canton, Ohio. So help the Nebraska Pride get there, and you can do that by looking on my Facebook page at any of the content that I have shared from the team. Any donation, any kind of side work is welcome. You can send donations to my Venmo at the MackTruck or the Nebraska Pride Venmo if you type it in. You can also message them on Facebook directly. And guess what? We're trying to get there. We have been asked to come and do the live commentary like we did for the first round of playoffs. This topic, and I'm sitting here trying not to tear up because I'm just that happy for my team. And yes, for those of you who know, I did not get to play this season, and that's okay. I've still supported my team throughout most of the season. I have still been a part as far as just being able to be a fan. And I think for me, that's been the best part about this. But the most recent best part is seeing my team go out there and beat a rival that we have literally had issues with for 4 straight seasons. 4 straight seasons, 2 different installments of Nebraska football. And they got the fucking job done. They got it done. And I'm sitting here beaming. I'm excited. I am so proud of this team and the ladies and the coaching staff. Some of y'all just don't understand some of the crap that has gone on, that has happened, outside of just, football things, politics, things like that. But the fact that they got the job done and they have proved every single hater wrong, including anybody that was, haters on the team, haters off the team, doubters, whatever the fuck you want to call it. The Nebraska Pride got it done in technically their second season of installment in terms of being a team. There's always been installments of Nebraska women's football, but they have not been up to the standard that the Nebraska Pride is currently showing right now through the terrible schedule that we've had in terms of playing no Division II teams, playing all pretty much D3 teams and 2 D1 teams, and only losing to one of the D1 teams. And now the Nebraska Pride are 7-1. Going into this national championship game. So I'm beaming, the team is beaming, and I'm doing my best to try to get a full interview with either one of my coaches or one of my teammates of the Nebraska Pride. So look forward to that. That's all we got today. Like I said, a little bit longer podcast, not quite the 70-minute mark, but definitely a little bit to keep your mind going in terms of how we're doing things and how we're maneuvering. We will have a podcast tomorrow and or Friday. Plan on tomorrow for sure, just for more updates, more content in terms of the things happening around the WFA and just generalized sporting fun. Hopefully we'll have some more updates on some of the more somber topics that we spoke about at the top of the hour in terms of the podcast broadcast. We'll have more things from our sponsors, more things, more shout outs, and just more of me, the MackTruck. I mean, this is the MackTruck Podcast and Broadcasting Show after all. So again, thank you for joining us. Again, if you're here live in the comments, thank you for the feedback. Thank you for everything. If you're listening post-recording, thank you. Give me feedback. You know I love it. Again, if you're in the Des Moines or surrounding area that has been affected by the EF1 level tornado that we just experienced about a day and a half ago on Monday, please be safe. Please be sure you are doing what you can to make sure your family has what they need in this trying time. Again, we are due to get very similar weather this coming weekend, so make sure you're prepared. Make sure you've got phones on chargers, extra chargers, cords, emergency bag, whatever you call it. Make sure it's there and ready, because you never know when this is going to happen. Like, I am literally looking at my front yard still with all the tree and rubbish debris and all that fun stuff sitting at the end of my curb waiting for debris pickup, which is supposed to be on Saturday. So be lovely, be well. If you don't have a podcast, bang that follow button. In the illustrious words of Ellen DeGeneres, be kind to one another. And the Pat McAfee show is back, and I'm excited because they've been on a 2-week hiatus for summer vacation, and I was missing them. But furthermore, in the illustrious words of Pat McAfee, be a friend, tell a friend something nice. It could change their life. Goodbye!